What up, everybody, man? Welcome this week to the Man Cave Experience with myself, Cedric Edison. You see it down there, my main man, Ron Serving, over there in good old California, man. What's up out there?
We're just still kind of slowly getting through some of this smoke that's still kind of impacting us, but we shall survive. This too shall pass.
Gotcha. Yeah, man. I've been praying. Y'all been on my mind. It's just crazy out that way, man. Um, and for any of our listeners that's out that way, I hope everything fair out. Um, Hope there's no more loss of life.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's been a little bit. That's crazy. So yeah, man, we appreciate y'all. We want to just go ahead and dive in, man. Y'all seen the topic up there, down there, wherever it's at. Um, but because a lot of times, man, we talk about, I'm good at this, or this is my strength, or we talk a whole lot about our strengths, and in when we were talking about what we're gonna bring to the show, it was on my mind, especially because I was dealing with some stuff talking about weaknesses, and I identified three big areas where I'm being weak in right now. Weak in, not weekend.
Weekend.
Yeah, so and us just chopping it up, man. We thought it'd be something just for us to come on and have an authentic conversation around. I know that's not a topic a lot of men talk about, because when I was out there in that man's world, you would have never. Shit, I didn't have any weaknesses. I was Superman.
Well, just curious, as you were even introducing that, I was just curious and thinking, who decided that their weaknesses? I guess that's kind of an important question, right? Because we can decide ourselves, or we're putting our trust or belief or our thought process in what others are thinking and not really understanding where we're at. So I'm just curious for you, said, when you identify these weaknesses, was this something that you felt was like society telling you this? Was this family friends telling you this, or is this just you telling yourself this?
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Hell, it probably would have been easier if I would have thought society was telling me that. I was just like, fuck it, that's what other people think. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But man, like the T-shirt line, focus on you and not me.
Right.
And I practice that a lot. So I do. It was really just a lot of introspection and trying to see where my business was gonna go. As a speaker, really, that's where it really all came about. Because I kind of feel like I got the coaching thing, the one-on-one thing down. But trying to make that pivot to being virtual and everything that comes along with being a professional speaker, it was just some areas like I identified, like, hey, I could do better in, and not necessarily saying it's weaknesses, but that was the closest word I can identify them to.
And I like that you said that, because I think oftentimes, we spoke here about just the cells in our body listening to everything we say. So even when we, kind of jokingly or, kind of ignorantly say, one thing versus what we really mean, I think that's where we have to kind of focus. So you just shifted that thought about yourself, not necessarily thinking one thing. You're just kind of shifting into, well, I'm just not where I'd like to be. That's not necessarily a weakness, right? So I think that's an important part of, for you, the listener, for me, for Cedric to just understand is, what is the branding we put on these areas in our life that we don't feel are what we would like them to be. And also, at some point coming to the realization that it never will be. But that doesn't necessarily mean even then that it's a weakness. It just could be I'm not as strong in that area that I am here. And I think that just, for me, when I hear somebody say that, or when I say it for myself, it softens it up. It doesn't make me feel like I'm letting myself down. I'm letting others down. I'm not creating a finality of it. Just it's almost like that still that openness and that possibility of maybe that could at some point be your strength, right? I mean, are you open to that possibility?
Well, yeah, yeah. And like I said, man, it was just one of the things that I could easily identify with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's a whole nother animal we would have to deal with as far as the mindset, um, around it. I feel comfortable enough and confident enough in my ability to quiet the mind a little bit to where, I can say, hey, yeah, it is weakness and it's just that. But then once that headline is made, it's a matter of how I'm looking at it from that point on. Because for me, it's one of those. I look at it almost like going to the gym. You know what I'm saying? You're looking at 150 pounds or 225. Hell, if you're weak, there's nothing wrong with it. You know what I'm saying? You can't get it up off the bar. That's motivation.
Right.
Me. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, well, shit, I know I can do it. It's just now I got to figure out how to get there.
Right.
Um,
And that's why I brought it up, because I think we should each, and this is just my opinion, each individually decide what is our definition of weakness. What does weakness feel like for me? Because I think, those that may be listening in might, kind of look at weakness as being something that's much different, that pulls them down, pulls them down a rabbit hole because of maybe things they've been told as they're growing up, things that they are, these limiting beliefs about themselves. So, I would just encourage those that may, listen in on parts of this show or the whole show, when you're thinking about weakness, or any word that kind of creates some anxiety, maybe some uncertainty that doesn't necessarily feel good, just define it in the first place. Just, start from what your true definition is before you move forward. Because again, you may be sharing what, almost maybe saying verbatim what you've been told your whole life. And I
yeah,
think that's where we have to be a little bit more, willing to change and create our own definition. Maybe it's the same definition. Maybe it's the same thing we were told all the years, but maybe it's something different based on our own, awakening, our own experience, our own willingness to shift, like you said, the mindset and just those words that we can tweak slightly to just create a little bit more space for potential movement in the direction we want to go in.
yeah, yeah. And I was just thinking about something too, man. Another important part. You kind of touched on it in the beginning, asking me that question. Um, One, you got to realize where's this information coming from.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like you say, is it coming from you, um, or the outside world? Because that tends to determine how you should go about it.
Right.
Um, because both forces can be screaming big lies in your head, putting that imposter syndrome in there, and all kind of stuff.
And I think that's where we can really identify in others that are in our life where we fit in together as, just like you and I. I mean, you have strengths that aren't as unique to me, and vice versa. I think that's where, I think we can acknowledge and appreciate and really value those areas. I mean, we talked before about, not focusing on how we're different, but this is one area of our life that we can focus on how we're different, because it's more about those things, those attributes, those qualities in you that create who you are, which could be quite different than the same, the qualities that I possess. But that doesn't make us any one better than the other, right? It just creates that uniqueness of us and what we have to the table. You have a little staticky there for a second. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I was trying to fix it. My bad, y'all, if y'all tuning in, especially on
We're
the back.
rolling, man. We're going with all the technical difficulties. We're just like jamming forward, baby.
Sorry. Yeah, man. Sorry about that. That made me lose my train of thought. I apologize.
So the three weaknesses you said again are the perceived weaknesses. Will you name those again, said?
Yeah. Um, the main three is all business wise right now. And the first one is and it's strange because I teach on this, but I found myself falling short around consistency, um, relationships, and my follow up,
Mm.
which are three main components to any business. And I realized like, yo, I was grinding my business out, really playing out the law of averages, just the numbers game, and kind of lucked out here and there, honestly. But the pandemic forcing me to have to really do everything virtually. It's not, I'm just not driving around town and like, oh, I'm on this side of town, let me whip in and go check on my people. I can't necessarily do that,
Right.
which is kind of how I did. Um, and it just wasn't really on my mind. And just like I was just looking at friendships and just kind of looking at a whole lot of stuff, and then just the follow through. I mean, not the follow through, the follow up, um, and just working with that, and that kind of came about just trying to work on my next program. I was just like, whoa, I've met a lot of people since the pandemic, in these past 6 months, um, and this whole thing being different. I wasn't being consistent with my following up and maintaining those relationships, which could ultimately help the business.
Right. So what's the typical process for you, or is there a typical process where you identify it, you see it, you feel it, you taste it, you recognize it? Does it do you then just kind of notice it for a period of time until it comes to a certain point, or are you uncertain that you're maybe swimming and not moving, and then you figure out finally that you're not swimming? I'm just curious for you, any of those topics, is there kind of a pattern that you see? Because I think oftentimes we don't recognize those things that we're doing or not doing. Others may see those things in us, and just my point, to kind of circle back is, just how do we create our own personal accountability, or do we need to search for somebody, to remind us or to kick us in the ass? I know that's something that we both, kind of been willing to do in our relationship, our friendship, is to kick each other, but probably not as much as we should at times. But I think we realize the importance of it. So I'm just curious for you, those three areas you brought up, is it typical for you to, kind of linger in identification and just kind of let it fester, or does time go by and you don't realize you've been kind of swimming for a period of time and just not moving anywhere?
Well, around these, um, it kind of came about from how can I? I was just kind of looking at my business and just trying to figure it all out and to pivot next, and it was like, how can I? And it was just questioning, just constantly, just curiosity, really. Like, what can I do? And then it kind of said, hey, let's take a step back, look at it, and let's see what areas you can work on. And with these, it's because I've probably been doing it for so long, the not so good habit. I'll What I'm doing now is, instead of trying to take them all on in one big massive, rah, let me just tackle this, eat my frog first. I'm doing it military style. I'm just doing it by the numbers, for each thing. Okay, well, who are the main players? Who are the main key players? And they have a set number. Okay, well, you need 100. You need to be sending out 100 emails or whatever. But in an amount of time, let's break it down by size. Like, I'm literally doing it by the numbers. Okay, so step one in the relationship, you have to read out. Step two, you have to do this, and then consistency. Like, really just practicing what I preach. And it feels weird to even say that, and it's a gut check. Um, but and I kind of think what happened, man, is I kind of got comfortable. I got comfortable. That's really what happened. I got comfortable in everything just being on autopilot. And then it's like, whoa, I wake up and then you know, it was a little off cue. So I'm just doing it by the numbers. Replays, just what we do as coaches, and for those of you listening, replacing the old habits, just one little piece at a time until the consistency is there in all three of those.
Right. And as you were talking, Seth, I was just thinking, you know, in my own mind about, I think you articulated that well, because I think you were, or I know you were saying things that are more moving forward versus that uncertainty that can keep you stuck. So just and I think we talked about this, you know, episode or so ago about, you know, two words that you can find, and I think, I mean, there are maybe those that would disagree with me, but I honestly think there's always there's usually in all of us some point where we say the phrase "can I," and we question ourselves versus "I can." And I think, you know, you alluded to that in your statement. You know, how can I do this versus can I do this? I think, you know, sometimes you, the listener, may be not paying attention to just those simple the ways that we're saying things, and we're creating that doubt within us, maybe even on a subconscious level that we're not recognizing that, and just shifting those words sometimes. And maybe it's not as you say it and you're thinking, oh, I can't do this. And then just by saying it, I can do this. It's not necessarily I can do this now. It's creating the possibility that I can do this at some point. I can lose the weight. I can make that phone call. I can get that job. So I think, you know, part of our journey as coaches, part of our journey as men, part of our journeys as fathers has been, you know, can we do the show consistently? Or you know, can we continue to provide content that's going to be something that people want to listen to? Versus the slight shift to that, saying we can create the content. Maybe it's not the content we're looking to present today, but we're building towards what and this is just an example of how, you know, you, the listener, can really listen to yourself on a much more regular basis. Look at yourself in the mirror and make the statements that you're saying in your mind to yourself, and just see how they land. You know, I can versus can I? I mean, are you saying more of the, you know, one thing that you need to say versus saying, you know, can I? And just taking that stance. I can, not at this point, or I can right now, and just deciding in each moment what's possible for you.
Yeah. And understand that it's a process. Mm-hmm. Like I can't tell. I wish I could have everybody like plug a USB into my brain sometimes and like, yo, it's a process. Yeah. You know, and I'm just, because you mentioned weight, and I hear it, you know, a whole lot. You know, people want this. We live in this microwave society, and we want it so bad, and we don't realize, like, yo, you've been having this bad habit for a minute, whatever that, for a period of time, and it didn't come overnight, so it's not gonna leave overnight. And so that was one, for me, you know, just having one to saying, hey, I know I can do better in this area, like, and believing that. And then in order, just the way my brain has to process it, then that's when the how can I? Because I know I can. Mm-hmm. And then I could just, because if I just say, oh, I know I can. I know I can drive out there to see Ron, but now how can I make that happen? Right. You know, it's a big difference from me just believing it and knowing that I have the capability, and now I got to take action. And sometimes it's okay because you're not going to know right off the bat. And that's why I love that question. How can I? Because then that becomes something I think about on a daily. You know, maybe 3-4 times a day, and it's not like it's constantly on my brain or whatever. It's just like, oh, okay, I wake up in the morning, like look at my list. Okay, I got to do this, reach out. Okay, how can I make this happen today? Just today. And then, you know, then it's a whole big old process. We'll start a course. But
and I think just when you brought up the topic, I think just this, and I you know, kind of put it in the narrative earlier. when I did a post was just how can you create a better relationship with what you feel is, a certain aspect of your life. It's not something that you have to attach yourself so tightly to where you feel like you're bound by, this word or this phrase or how you've looked at things in the past, and just being willing to be curious about, having something, a different way of experiencing it. And just, again, not looking necessarily at you being weak or, or not, kind of meeting expectations. It's even the simpleness of saying, I'm weaker in those areas. Even that subtle shift creates a much different landing point as we listen to it or we hear it than, I'm weak. Because I think, and I go through this with my son, and he's, I think he's getting it now, because he'll say, if he makes a mistake or something, he'll say, oh, I'm a loser, or not, that's probably a poor example, but more of a generalization is my point, where we do something, we take an action that creates kind of that experience, and then we tag it as, well, then you're that, right?
Right.
I told on somebody, I told on somebody, so now I'm a tattletale. Well, not necessarily. Just because you told on somebody, maybe that's important that you told somebody about that, but that doesn't identify you as a tattletale. So I think that's, if you're looking at different aspects of your life, just pay attention to generalizations that encompass everything versus situational, to where it might be a reflection on something in that area.
I don't know, man. Snitches get stitches, bro.
I knew you were coming up with something, man. But you get what I'm saying. I mean, I think, and we can just have, just in a comfortable conversation, just create that generalization. And again, I think those messages that we give ourselves, especially when it's repetitive, we start believing it. We start, hearing ourselves, and then others start believing it. And then we find ourselves, kind of moving in the direction of creating things that ensure that is in fact true. And if they're not really things we want to experience, we have to kind of pause and just identify the behavior and say, I'm tattling on a regular basis, and I don't want to be a tattletale. Or, those things that we feel like are repetitive that we continue to do that isn't what we want to experience, separate it from an overall, perception of and being inclusive, and just isolate and say, that's not a behavior I want to do all the time. It's not necessarily a bad behavior, but I don't want to yell on a regular basis. I don't want to show anger on a regular basis. It doesn't mean I'm an angry person. I can express anger periodically when it's necessary, but that doesn't make me an angry person. I guess that's maybe a better example of kind of getting my point. So.
Yeah, I was just picking, man. I was just picking. Man, and I love where you're going with that, man, because the mindset matters. The mindset matters. When it comes to weaknesses and all of that, I would have to say too, man, another way is to help control the positive vibration that's going on. And I don't want to go into it, but to control that positive atmosphere, another way you could also look at it would be, how can I be better?
Mm-hmm.
At whatever. Instead, because I get it, you striking out like, man, fuck, today sucks. Like, man, I'm a fucking idiot. I just, because y'all know I'm a delivery driver, and sometimes you're in the back of the truck and you're missing a package. And then, hell, I teach and preach this stuff. And I still fall short. And I get back there and I'm like, man, fuck, you fucking idiot. How in the hell did you miss that? You wrote the address on the biggest day. Now do I want to continue throughout the day? Because I understand if I continue to tell myself that, the chances are pretty high that tomorrow I'll go through that same thing. And then the next day, and now I'm creating that bad thought pattern, that bad loop.
And there's also, I think what I was alluding to earlier as well is, we can let go of that part of us that isn't at the higher level of who we are at this point of our life. And I think, so an example I was just thinking of was, I can be very directionally challenged. You can tell me, I've been to the same place like over and over again, and I'll have to like, try to recall how the hell to get there. So an easy way for me to not have to experience that is just to rely upon my wife to remind me how to get there, versus what I'll do is sometimes is I'll get all hot and bothered because she's telling me what to do, and I'm feeling like, oh, well, that's a weakness or something I can't do good. I can't get us to where we're supposed to be going. Versus if I can just let that go and realize maybe that's not a strength that I'm really focusing on, and just focus on those things that I'm good. It doesn't mean that I just have to ignore directions. It just means I can let go and utilize those around me that are good at that can, kind of fill that void, not as a way to avoid or as an excuse, but just recognizing that, my weaknesses could be your strengths, and how can we complement each other and really, kind of look at, our life as being those areas that we can really focus on to become better at, and then also recognizing the possibility of those areas that we're struggling in that we'd like to do better, maybe spending more time in those areas because we really need to or we really want to. And that extra time usually allows us to grow to the point where we recognize, I can do this. I just never gave myself enough time to learn it or to experience it or to grow into it.
Right. Right. Because man, we would never be having this conversation had I not allowed myself to experience it. Honestly,
Right.
like I don't have no weaknesses. I am all that is man. I'm a Marine. I have no weaknesses.
But this is, I think what we really try to focus on more so than not here, between conversations you and I are having, are conversations that men typically aren't having. So, men aren't typically talking about so-called weaknesses, where they areas they don't do well in. They'll mask it with, well, I'm this, right? They'll puff their chest up and say, well, I'm this, I'm this, to get, almost like move you away from even identifying maybe something they're not so good at. We can have that conversation about how well we excel in a man-to-man conversation, but we should be at some point feel that rapport and the ability to say, you know what, I really don't do well at that, but I'm okay with that. Just give that gift to that man that's sitting with you to acknowledge and to say, I'm okay with not being able to be the best, basketball player in the world. I'm okay with not being the best, calligraphy writer. I'm okay with not being the best, some aspect of your life. So when we can give that gift to ourselves and acknowledgement and remove that pressure from ourselves, creates that space for others that we're sitting with, especially men, that can say, God, I appreciate that, because, I've always kind of felt this pressure that my dad always put on me or society put on me to never fail, to never show my weaknesses, to never be vulnerable. So I think that, that starts with us. That's why we're here. That's why we created the show way back when. And that's what we'll continue to really focus on is how can we as men have authentic conversations and learn from each other. Again, Cedric and I are continually looking at our own lives and sharing that with each other, as well as those that we come in contact with, to really hope that the better world is still coming. The better experience of life is still coming for all of us. And that's up to each and every one of us to learn and grow and teach and really share our journeys with each other.
Yeah, very well said. It's people like us and people like our listeners that's going to help create that change, because it's needed. Um, I'm just thinking now, especially now, man, and COVID going on, people, we fast approaching a year. Like if you think about it, time is going. and since society has made us the quote unquote leaders, I think it's best, or could be beneficial. I wouldn't say best. It could be very beneficial for men to start to open up and express that. We've been in hiding, and I mean our insides, our feelings and emotions and thoughts have been in hiding and under lock and key by society. And I think it's really time for us to break free, to be free of that and have these conversations. It doesn't make you weak. If anything, it makes you stronger because you will have to open up, and it may or may not feel good or comfortable. Um, but if it does make you feel uncomfortable, there's a lesson on the other side of that. Just push through, have that conversation. You don't have to necessarily do it every day with some strange person you don't know. But find that guy, find that person that you can lean on. Find your Ron, where they can kick you in the ass and point out your quote unquote weaknesses or your strengths, or if you're dealing with something, you can be like, bruh, like I just how I think it was yesterday. Like, bruh, that's what I'm going through. Like, man, this shit driving me insane. Whereas this is a muscle I had to build, because before I never would have told another man walking this planet that I was struggling with something, because I would have felt like he had one up on me. And now I'm that much less of a man. Um, but now saying that release, and just sometimes just saying it is a release of that negative energy, and you can feel that calm come over your body. So I would really, really push you and invite you to just try it.
Yeah.
Like I always say on here, just try it. Like, you don't have to believe me, but just try it and spend some time with it, and see how it works, and then come back and let us know.
Yeah. Well, I think the other thing that we don't talk a lot about, because we try to keep it, conversational for the most part, and really kind of providing, insights on our own experiences. But I think the thing that I think we've maybe not done as good a job on sharing with you, the listener, is, we're here to support you. If you feel like a conversation with Cedric or myself, or just posting and engaging here, or on our Facebook page would be helpful for you, reach out to us. We're both normal men living our lives. So you may be one that just listens to the show and then doesn't really necessarily know where to go with it. We're here to support you. We're here to really give you an extended hand to really, learn from, to grow with, and to really engage in a way that's authentic and real. So that's a gift that we want to always make you, the listener, aware of. And you could be a female listening too that might have some insights or questions to us, or maybe you have, a loved one, a spouse, a brother, a cousin that's not in a place where they might want to be. And those are conversations we're open to. It doesn't have to be here on the show. It could just be, you reaching out to us and us giving you some words of wisdom, or some advice, or even just some insights on one small step you might be able to take today to move you forward, or create some space for you to really understand that we're all in this together. We all have areas to improve. We all have areas that we do well, and we're all on this journey together.
Yeah, for real, for real. No matter how you slice it, take a picture of it, we all in this bad boy together, man. For real, for real. Man, we jumped in real quick.
Well, as always, we all offer up anybody that's, I wouldn't even say it's daring. It's just more you're wanting. It's not even needing. It's more, I want to be in the cave. I want to experience the cave at a different level. Send us a message. Let us know you'd like to join us here in the cave. We're going to have another special guest here in a couple of weeks, but we're always willing to create space for those that really want to dive into a deeper conversation and bring something to the table that can really inspire others that are in your circle, others that you feel are important to be part of this conversation. So I appreciate each and every one of you for whatever time you've been able or willing to show up here for us, show up for yourself. And I will definitely look forward to the next time we're here together. And Seth, I always appreciate you and what you bring to my life, first of all, just the man you are, and just to this show.
Man, likewise, right back at you. I love you, my dude. I love y'all. And yeah, hit us up, man. Hit us up. Let us know what's on your mind. We don't bite. I mean, we just two dudes.
Yep.
Just two regular dudes. Yeah. So, man, I guess we'll see y'all next week. Love seeing y'all jump on. Love, because a lot of y'all come offline, chop it up with us. Love to see y'all do it, interact with us on this front. But yeah, man. Until next week, y'all. Man, we love y'all. Love you, bro. Y'all come back and do it again next week. Make sure you hit that share button. All right.
Peace out, brother.
Later.